I'm really grateful for being here in Hong Kong in this forum, and specifically in this summer school, in this panel with my female comrades. And I will try to also link a little about the things that we have been hearing these days from Rebecca, which I thank a lot, to try to explain a little what's going on in Venezuela. But also, when I was hearing during these days, I was thinking that about the necessity of make those linkage, because also we've been working together in build platforms of alliances between struggles. So that basically needs to have a complete global view of the struggle. And thinking about that, I have some kind of common disputes that I was thinking about that we have in Venezuela right now, but I think that we also share in the rest of the world. But previous, I have to comment that I will talk about what's going on in Venezuela, but I have to talk about what's not going on in Venezuela, because when I see the handbook that you give us about Fukushima, when you put the 10 myths that about nuclear weapons, I have that I think that there are a lot of myths about Venezuela right now, like that. And what's not going on in Venezuela, we don't have a problem of democracy. We have like 25 election process in the last 20 years. So we have a healthy democracy system. We don't have a problem of authoritarianism or human rights. I think that probably we have better democracy and freedom, liberties than the United States of America. For manifestation, for free speech, for media. And also, we are so probably so-called nation narco-terrorism, maybe as we have aliens so much. That's kind of a Hollywood movie to say that. But that's part of the myths about Venezuela that we have to. I recommend you that you visit Venezuela. I also invite you to Venezuela. I think it's a great time, a history time, to go in Venezuela and see it by yourself, what I'm about to tell you. We will welcome you there. Maybe the next South Forum could be in Venezuela. Well, I was telling you that I think that probably we are living right now a situation of rupture of the well-living that Bolivarian revolution brings to most of the population of Venezuela during these last 20 years. That well-living was referred to a higher value of the salary, most guarantees of social guarantees of rights for most of the people, and a high level of consumption, as well as other progressive processes in the region. But right now, that has some kind of rupture, and you see a lot of migration and a lot of difficulties for the people that are that are living in the country, because we have really high prices, really high exchange values, and that's the struggle. That's a daily struggle that we have. I don't want to go deep on that, but I want to put it in the context, because as I've been talking to my friend Chongqing, this depends on the position where you see what's going on in Venezuela. And of course, what I share with you in the website of the forum about the communal way in Venezuela, it's a site from the people, from the organizations, from the social movements, which I belong. I'm part of a urban platform of social movements specifically a settlers movement that also, as my friends here, we occupy land and state, unoccupied state in the cities of Venezuela. And we struggle for what we call not exactly the right for the city, instead the urban revolution. And we think that that's about to struggle for have conditions for a self-management mode of production of a new way of city that we think that is toward the way of building a socialism from the grassroots. And I think that what we have in common, probably, we have three common disputes here that are going on right now in Venezuela, and I think that we share it. One of them is that we have what we are living is part of a global, someone call it a trade war between China and United States, but we actually think that that's a part, that's like a little peak of the iceberg, which is a global war for hegemony. It's a global war for hegemony, for the global hegemony. And it's in a new era of the system of capital. We think that we have a crisis of the civilizatory model of the capital. And in that point, maybe the big five, but especially United States of America, are fighting to recompose his global hegemony. United States have been the global empire during maybe the last more than 100 years. And for that recomposition of hegemony, they need to take control again of Latin America. I think that there is some kind of road of recomposition, like an imperialist offensive in the last 10 years. I strongly recommend a reader, which is in the forum, which is it's a dossier about Venezuela, which specifically talks about this. But in this Latin America offensive, Venezuela specifically, it's a strategical point. So it's a point in a bigger board of battle, as Brazil as well, and as Argentina as well. Specifically Venezuela, I think that by three reasons. One is the oil. We are the first certified reserve oil in the world. Also, really important in gold and diamonds too, and other minerals. The second thing is that we are a referent in building of integration spaces during this time. Some of them as ALBA TCP, which is an agreement proposal that emerged after the defeat of the free trade agreement for Americas. That was the proposal of the United States for the 90s. And like that, we have UNASUR, Mercosur, Petrocaribe, which are different tools for integration, since another site that is not the free market that has been proposed by Venezuela, and are part of an offensive, a counter-offensive during the last 20 years to build an architecture, a global architecture with no empire, but with different centers and poles of power. And the third reason is about socialism. Venezuela have been building a process, a national project, where we propose that socialism is the way to confront the crisis of capital that is putting on risk the life in the world. And those are real threats. The U.S. Department has called that an unusual risk, an unusual threat.
Unusual threat to the security, to national security.
An unusual threat to national security. That's an executive order, and that's the second common dispute. I think that right now we are facing in Venezuela a blockade that increases our colonial contradictions, internal contradictions. And that blockade, it's a subject where I want to speak. We will have the space to share about it. I think that maybe Friday at night, kimchi, at dinner, probably. I invite you there to talk a little about a campaign that we are promoting from social movements that is about, and I told about that before, that is Trump on blockade Venezuela. I will not go deep on that, but I can tell you that right now in this moment, since 2013, there are a list of sanctions from the U.S. Department that has seize, like the control of some fund international belonging to Venezuela, around $4.5 billion US dollars. Obviously, that's really difficult to our country to sustain social rights without those $4.5 billion. And also, that situation, that siege, it's like they call it in a war strategy, a siege is a state where you are promoting that your enemy surrender or fight each other till death in the inside. That's basically what happened in Venezuela. Until now, we haven't. We haven't surrendered and we haven't killed each other. What we have seen during this year, we have different episodes. I think that one of the most important was a cybernetic attack to the electrical system twice in the year that has like consequences that we have like 5 years without electricity in the whole country. And I am sure that probably since the US headquarters of the CIA, they were waiting for we kill each other. And what actually happens is that most of the people adapt to the situation. And we start to collaborate to resolve the situation. And specifically in the neighborhoods, in the grassroots, in the barrios, as we call it, people start to collaborate each other to resolve. In this matter, the water was an important issue. I'm from Caracas, the capital of Venezuela, and I didn't know how much people knows about what are the principal, how is it, fuentes de agua? Sources of water, natural sources of water. And then everybody knows where it goes, a natural source of water and where we can take it and share it together, or where we have a deep well of water. That's just an example. But what I actually will share with you Friday too about the communal way in Venezuela, it's about how that the accumulation of organization and mobilization during these years has created a communitary tissue that is capable to resist during this situation. I don't want to say that everything is perfect, obviously. It's a really difficult situation. But what I said is that we have right now what I think it's the third common dispute that we have in here, that is a global dispute between the communal ways, the community ways, the ways of people that struggle constantly to maintain life for livelihood, actually, and a way of reproduction of a civilizatory model of capital that only struggles to reproduce capital. And as we've been talking these days, that's a patriarchy civilizatory system, it's a racist civilizatory system, it's a militarist civilizatory system, it's a capitalist civilizatory system. And of course, the struggle for the empire, the one who conducts that, a struggle to have the hegemony of that whole system. And I think that that's a common dispute that we have been talking about during these days, maybe in the experience of Fukushima, maybe in the experiences of different ways against nuclear weapons. But we have a challenge, a common challenge that is transcend the view that it's a trouble of, in Latin America we have the view that we don't have that problem because we don't have nuclear plants, any nuclear plants or any nuclear weapon, in the case of Venezuela, for example. Because we have a short view that doesn't allow us to see that is a common challenge. I should say that in the case of Venezuela, in 2000, a little parenthesis, in 2010, Hugo Chavez, former president and leader of Bolivarian Revolution, has said that Venezuela will promote a nuclear energy program. But then, in 2011, he says that Venezuela will never go in a program of nuclear energy after Fukushima disaster. But what I could say for closure, linking with what we actually have as common challenges, is that something that we have learned during these years is that we need to build an architecture of common struggles, and that's sometimes is part of assume integration agenda, and that's not only a responsibility of the states or the governments. We have to build it from the grassroots, and that's where we have some initiatives as People's International Assembly, which my friend here will talk later, and also ALBA movements as an integration project from the social movements. I have to say that after the defeating of the FTAA proposal of the United States, Hugo Chavez and Fidel Castro proposes to the continent a project of integration that they call ALBA, which means like a treaty of cooperation between nations, not based on free market, if not instead based in the cooperation for the common development. And after that, Nicaragua, the governments of Nicaragua, Venezuela, Cuba, some of the Caribbeans, and Bolivia also, integrated and give birth to the ALBA project. But then, from the social movements, we start to the discussion about that project is not just for the governments. That's a continental project of integration, and we have to give it flesh and blood. And we have started a discussion since 2013 in Escola Florestan Fernandes, where we have the first foundational assembly, where we met, by the way, with Kinchi and Jade. And since there, we've been discussing about what could be a project of integration from the grassroots. And we have been saying we need to have at least 6 fronts of struggle, of common struggle. One of them is the internationalism and solidarity from below. The second one is that we have to assume a cultural battle for a new ideology, which relates to all that we've been discussing and we will discuss these next days. The third one, it's about that we have to promote a democracy, people's power system. The fourth one is that we need to struggle for Mother Earth rights. Because actually, if we don't defend against the capitalist system, I was thinking about the question that you posed the first day. Are nuclear tests direct attacks? And I think that they do. They are direct attacks against life. Are direct attacks against life. And that's an expression of the system. And we have to fight against that. The fifth one is the necessary well-living economy model that we have to build. Because we need to build new ways for production, and I will add, and reproduction of life, not capital. And for the last, we need to build a front of a struggle for the people's feminism, popular feminism, because actually the fight against the patriarchy is not a trouble of women. It's a common struggle. It's a common dispute. I will let it over there. Thank you.